I know of one of our sisters. Now, the sisters, I'm sure there's some others of you like this, but I'm only now talking about one black woman. I don't want to mention who she is, somewhere else in the country. When Minister Farrakhan goes in certain cities, if his wife is not there, well, then the sisters will cook for him. There's a certain sister in a certain city, I've been knowing her for a number of years, who cooks for Minister Farrakhan, and her cooking was so energizing. Hear me, brothers, for a minute. Don't go to sleep on me. I want you to hear this, because you need to get a wife like this, man.
Yes, sir.
I mean, you need a wife. Some of you are looking kind of bad. Don't get upset. Don't get offended. Then you want to get even with me for saying that? Listen to me, brothers and sisters. This sister is such a good cook that the cooking affected the minister. Every time he eats her food, he said, "Who is that sister cooking?" He found out and gave her a holy name just behind the effect of her food over a period of time. Every time he would come in that city, he would be so positively affected. Now, a man expending the kind of energy that black man has expended needs the best of care.
That's right.
Now, my point is, so some of them begin to ask her, "Sister, what are you doing?" She said, "Well, first of all, I'm praying over the food." First thing. She loved, now hear me out. Now look, of all the food that you sisters make, the one that you get your hands off into the most is what? Bread.
That's right.
Now I want you to hear me, sisters. You don't know who you are. You're God, but you don't know it. The quality and the power of her thinking, brother, emanates through her hands or from her brain. Brain waves, you call it, affects the dough. It's not just the stuff she's putting in it, the recipe that you can read on a piece of paper, but it's the part that's not on the recipe that's in her brain that she injects into the dough as she's doing what she's doing with her hands. Do you hear what I'm saying?
Yes, sir.
That's why, sisters, you are betraying us when you force us to have to keep buying the bread that white folks make. There's not a brother in here. Look, brother, the average brother can make you some bean soup. You can make that stupid. You take the beans and you put them in a pot, let them soak overnight. Even if you're too ornery to clean them. You boil them the next day and keep boiling them and keep boiling them. First you put oil in them, a lot of oil. Otherwise they'd be hard. But if you just put oil in them, fellas, if you can't afford olive oil, or you're too ignorant about that, just get you some Mazola oil, pour it in there, and boil them bad boys for 3 or 4 hours. Get them salt. But you ain't going to make no bread, brother. Most brothers ain't going to make no bread. Sisters, if you make bread, we brothers will sell the bread. First we'll buy it off you and eat it.
That's right. That's right.
When I was doing far more traveling than I'm doing now, I used to give Sister Evelyn $50, $60. I want some bread. I'd travel with the bread. A lot of places I went, I didn't trust nobody.
Yes, sir.
But I got the bread. I go buy me some milk that the devil made, produced from the cow, with kind of garbage in it. But at least I had the bread. Get me some fruit and deal. You think I'm just stuffing. Why do you think they call bread the staff of life? He said you can live forever off bread and milk. Bean soup, bread and milk, or you can live forever off bread properly made. And you sisters should learn not just how to make bread, but how to make it 2 and 3 times over. And you will see the quality of the brothers' look improve immeasurably. How many of you brothers are single and you're eating bad? Raise your hand and don't lie. Hi. Sister, come on, keep them up. I want the sisters to look at you, brother. You're single and you ain't got no wife and you eating bad. You see that, sisters? Now, let me tell you something. There's a whole lot of other brothers all through the city just like that. You want to go into business, MGT? Go into the bread. Yeah, well, that's right. Do it. I made my point. What am I saying? Mind is superior to matter. Matter comes out of mind. Sister, think on the power that you got sitting up in your brain that you don't even understand. And Let me give you another example. You may not like this. Maybe nobody will like this, but I'm going to make my point anyhow, because I know either funky or coming out of funky. You know what I'm talking about. You go to a restaurant, brother, to get you a cup of coffee. The waitress turns her back, and you look at her behind, and she feels your eyes on her behind, don't you? Oh, come on, don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. You know what you're looking at, but the women can feel your eyes. Now, you're not aware of that. Am I right, sisters? Don't act like you don't know what I'm talking about. You're so holy you don't know what I'm talking about. Please. That shows you something. It's a hint.
That's right.
Even in our dead, dumb state, we got power.
That's right.
Not everybody coming into Washington was no saint.
That's right.
But there was the exuding of power. And brother, don't tell me you don't want power. There's not a black man born that don't want some turf, some space to exercise the power of his being. You're never going to do it under the white man's rule. I'll say that again. You will never do it under the white man's rule. Because what we have gone through as a people, there's no ordinary way we should have survived. And most of you don't know what I'm talking about because you ain't never been concerned enough about your own people to pick up and read 5 or 10 books on slavery. But Jews know everything that ever happened to them. But most of us don't know the history of your own ancestors right here in the United States. So don't tell me nothing about nobody else unless you learn about your own kind first. Your mothers and fathers. Most of you have never even tried to do no family tree thing, and if you do, you run into a blank wall. You can't go back. But what happened to your people? And if you study that, one of the things that will strike you is, damn, how did we survive this? That by reason of what we have come through, here in this country, we have been made something new. We are a people that have never before existed. Now, you can argue, but then you argue with ignorance. Because what we have come through and the way we have come through it has made us empty. You hear what I'm saying? The white man, it's in the Bible. All this is in the Bible, but it's so wrapped up it's not easy to see. And more often than not, you're too impatient to learn. You're always busy. It's hard for a brother or a sister that knows, who spends the time trying to learn, to share with you what they learn because you're busy. You hear what I'm saying? But I'm going to lay this anyway, and then I'm going on about my business. Look at how some of our people have been on dope, ravaged themselves, and then they come out of it as if they never have been in it. Haven't you noticed that? Sisters and brothers, you don't know who you are. But you're not going to find a God outside of yourself, except he be one over you. And that being now exists and is here. So now we're eating one time a day. Some of us every other day. Some of us every 3 days. There were some brothers 20-some years ago who used to eat once a week. You eat once a week, you'll never die. Unless you get run over, you die accidentally. You say, well, I don't know about that kind of power. Brothers, we got that kind of power. You have, again, I tell you, there was brothers who were untrained who went to Washington, D.C. and all night long and all through the day stood up. And they were packed together almost the way we was when they brought us over here 400 years ago. You may not believe it, but I'm just going to throw it on your pretty minds. Anyhow, you are such people that if they could kill every one of us, then there would be a collapse of everything, including themselves, and it would go back to the way it was in the beginning, nothing. And then after, we would not be able to count time because nobody would be conscious. But after so much quote-unquote time, and you can't even use the word time here because you got nothing making motion. But at a certain point, we would start all over again. And Adam would form, and out of it would come a black man. And he starts the whole thing all over again. That's who you are. You are God's, but you don't know it. Goddesses, but you don't know it. Your bread, sister, is a small sign of who you really are. Small sign. Let me tell you something, brothers and sisters. Have you ever stopped a dog in his tracks with your eyes, with a fearless mind? Some of you have done that. Just with your mind, you've stopped them in your tracks. I had the opposite experience first when once a dog ran me blocks. I came to that block and I wasn't expecting it, and I later learned it was a 125-pound boxer. Scared me to death. And I was so humiliated and embarrassed. Nobody knew it but God and me. And for months, I dealt with that. I mean, that really messed me up. And after it took me 4 months to get myself together. But when I did, I went to that same block. This was many years ago in Lansing, Michigan. And I was determined I was going to kill that dog. But it took me 4 months to get it together. When I went into that block, that dog came running at me. I took my glasses off and I was prepared to kill him. I weighed about 142 pounds. I later learned he weighed 125 pounds. I would have had a problem if I didn't have it together. Even though I outweighed him, but a dog is different. But I had the actual experience of stopping him in his track. And part of what got me was, before I had the first of the two experiences, I had heard the ministers talk about the power that we used to have. When we used to stop a 600 and 700 pound lion in his track by just standing up and catching him with one spear. And a lion that size do 100 yards in 6 or 7 seconds, brother. That's the power we used to have. Now, what you had, brother, I mean, look, you know something, this is not knocking homosexual brothers, but there is a feeling among men, sister, that if we ain't got that together, we cannot treat you right. You understand what I'm saying? Without a lot of long, drawn-out talk. If men don't have a certain kind of feeling among themselves as men, you don't stand no chance, sister, and you already know that. And every woman worth that word woman will not argue with what I just said. I know there's a few sisters, Angela Davis and a few others didn't like it, but that's okay. She hasn't met the right brother yet. I'm saying it like it is. If that happens, she'll forget she even said that. Jealousy. Envy. It takes 3 to have jealousy. It takes just 2 to have envy. Here's a brother. I used this example before, I use it again. You're in the shopping mall with your wife. You've been married 5 years. You're both 35 years old. You've been out of high school 15 or so years, 16, 17 years. As you and your wife are going down the mall, she sees Tommy Willis. She ain't seen Tommy Willis since she was 18, which was 17 years ago. Tommy, they were friends, nothing serious, just friends. Mamie. And you look at her, and you look at him, and your mind is, what's going on? Jealousy. You feel threatened. The relationship ain't what it should be, therefore you're threatened. Now there can be a certain kind of passing, flashing, zip, boom, gone jealousy that really says love. But there's the other kind of jealousy that lingers all into the night. You are wide awake in the night. She asleep, you awake, wondering about it. Then you nudge her, kind of wake her up and try to bring up the subject. Because you ain't over what you was over when you were supposed to get over it. That's a big subject right there, isn't it? Maybe God will bless us sometime, or you will do it yourself and get into it. Big time subject. You'll get married, but you don't have no marriage manual. You just get married. I like her, I like him, let's get married. You get a manual for your car and a recipe for your bread and your food, but you won't get a recipe to get married. You just do it. Like a dumb jackass. Pardon me, but that's the way we do it in America. It's called what? Romance. And what is that? Insanity. You get engulfed in an ocean of feelings and you never come out of it, and then when you settle down to the realities of life, you gotta wash his nasty socks and all of that, and all of what goes on in married life. Then all of a sudden the stuff fades away, you're looking at each other. Now you gotta deal with something now. I'm just throwing it out there because it's part of what you gotta deal with. In the real world, in the real heavy world, the parents take care of that. But you say, I ain't have my parents take care of nothing. You will even ask your parents for advice so you can at least learn from the mistakes they made. You Mr. and Mrs. Independent, ignorant jackass. You better ask for some advice. Most of y'all get married and you ain't never read one damn book on marriage. White folks talk to us and on the radio like we're supposed to forget about what happened yesterday. Just start start from now. The hell with that. That ain't going to work.
That's right.
You don't want, you want us to study whatever history you want us to study, but we want to deal with our situation. Part of it is we are descendants of slaves. We're carrying the baggage of the last 400 years. Just to be angry don't mean nothing. Do you know anything behind your anger? Can you sit down and engage in a sane discussion with white folks? Minister Farrakhan can. I mean, we can't talk about what y'all did to us. Because it offends you or upsets you, to hell with you.